Hello, this is Martin, and in today's video, we'll take a look at a very important part of revenue, and that is definition of marketing channels and mapping of traffic and ads data. Before we dig into this process, I will take a moment to really explain what we mean by marketing channels and what is their function. The best explanation that comes to my mind is based on the main dashboard of revenue, the performance monitor. The performance monitor displays the process of transformation of investment into marketing down the marketing funnel all the way to deliveries, revenue, and gross profit. To be able to reconstruct this whole funnel, we had to design a way how to connect data from different types of data sources. Because if you look at the funnel itself, and compare it, for example, to Google Analytics, you might already understand that in Google Analytics you only see this part, right? And today we'll be talking about connecting data from your web analytics, where you see what happens on your website, that is mainly visits and conversions, with the data from the marketing platforms, that is which you have invested, what impressions have been purchased, and to what clicks have they resulted, right? So once again, marketing platforms tell us about investments, impressions, and clicks. And web analytics tell us about visits and conversions. And the process of mapping channels is a process that connects these two parts of the funnel, right? So you can imagine the channel to be standing somewhere in between clicks and the visits. Marketing channels are very, very important. Their definition will impact how you will be able to analyze data later in more advanced features of the system, and that is namely path analysis and attribution analysis, as well as in the exports where all the data presented by a revenue API is categorized on the level of marketing channels. Okay, to begin with the process itself, the first step is to look at what channels are already created. This demonstration will be made on a test account for which we have defined several business units, and to some of these business units, they are already connected connectors or data sources. So the first thing is to look at what channels are already created, and we can see that in channels, which is accessible via the left side menu in the marketing section. And for the demonstration, we can pick one of the business units which does not have any channels yet. We can see that Czech Republic has already some channels defined, but for example, Poland does not have any channels yet. Channel not set is created automatically during creation of the business unit. So to create a new channel, it's very easy to create a new one. You can just hit the Add Channel button, which relates to the business unit. So relating to Polish business unit, you can add a new channel. And for the demonstration, you can add something generic that we know that will be probably used in our channel mapping. A lot of revenue users map all organic traffic into one channel. And that means they create a channel called organic, and later traffic is mapped into this channel. As you could have seen, I wrote the name and the code has been generated automatically. It is a good practice to make sure that if you are using this channel across more than one business units, right, that if we would be using organic for all of our business units, in case you make some changes, make sure that the name and the code stay the same for the channel across all business units, right? So if you were to make organic for all other business units, and then make some changes to the naming, make sure that you update the channel for all business units. Also, you can see that there is a checkbox. Channel is sponsored, which is some additional information about whether the channel but there are some costs associated with the channel. We can say that organic for now is not a sponsored channel because it does not relate to any direct costs in ad spending. So very easy, very quick. We have defined the channel organic and we can save. And right away, you see that in the Polish business unit, it is already created channel organic. We could have, we can keep going and create more channels. But before we do that, it is always good to look at the data itself and really see what are we working with and create our channels based on that. That brings us to the next part, which is mapping of data from web analytics. As mentioned in the beginning, there are two parts, data from web analytics and data from marketing platforms. And therefore, we have created two separate interfaces for mapping each of these sites. Data from web analytics is tracked in a section which is accessible via the settings menu, which is available for administrators and operators of the system. So if you can't see the settings section, make sure you have the right level of access. And in this menu, you can see down here underneath data sources that there's traffic classification and ad classification. So in the beginning, we'll look at traffic classification and see what data came in from the web analytics. And you can see here that the categorization, there are some windows in which you can specify your filter, and these windows are divided in the form of well-known UTM parameters, right? So you can see source, medium, campaign, ad group, and a site. A site is a parameter which is brought in by the connector to web analytics. And here, what we want to do is to map traffic into the channel we have created earlier, that is organic. To do this, it's very simple. Again, we wanted to map all organic traffic into this channel. So all we need to do is to create a rule that will map all of the traffic into this channel. And that rule is defined as medium. Here we have two options, does or does not. And under each of these, we have 5 different options on how to define the rule. We usually use most contains or starts with. And if you have a more complex rule to define, you can also use regular expressions. So here, all we need to do is we can use equal for this one and say that medium needs to be equal to organic. Here, all the organic traffic is selected. Right? And now what we can do is to transform this filter we have defined into a rule. And by this rule, the traffic will be mapped into a channel to which we assign the rule. Right? And to make this conversion, we can use the plus convert to rule function on top right. And that this brings us to add classification rule, which presents us with the filter itself or the rule we have defined, and later it enables us to add it to a platform and a channel. In traffic classification, we can assign a platform to our rules, and for the platform to be visible, it needs to be connected, right? And since organic is not associated in any specific platform, there will be no platform assigned. It's completely okay. Platforms are voluntary. What needs to be added is a channel. And when we open up this drop down, we might have to refresh because we added the channel. There is a bad. You can see here. Careful about that. There is a wrong business unit. So we need to make sure that we are specifying the rule for the correct business unit, which is Poland, the one we created the rule for, the channel for earlier. Yes, and here we set up the same filter, organic, and convert this to rule. And here we already see the channel organic we have created earlier. And after we save, we can see that channel has been created here on the right side as well, and it has been, and the lines which comply with the rule have been tagged by the channel tag. Good practice is to always look at what is not set. So when you define not set, you will see all the lines of traffic which do not have defined a rule yet. And if you look at the top left here underneath the title, you will see what part of all data here has not does comply with your selection in the filter. And so in this case, we see that we still have 77.1% of rows without channel categorization. This is a good thing to look at when you're doing your mapping. We are trying to lead our users to categorizing at least 95% of their rows in traffic classification. That means that there should not be more than 5% of rows in not set. 5% or less is okay, because there are usually some long tail combinations of source, medium, and campaign, usually some referrals, which are tough to categorize, and they do not relate to a lot of traffic, so these can be left out. But the general principle is to try to map as much as possible. Right? And then we can add a few more. Once we are here, we see that most visits are associated with direct, so we can create a new channel, direct, and there is a little workaround. We don't have to go all the way back to channels, but we can actually create channels right here in traffic classification, and I'll show you how right now. So we want to say that source contains direct, medium contains none. Okay, you see that direct and none has been selected, and when you want to convert to rule, there is no channel direct. We want to name the channel direct. It's not here yet, so we need to add it. And for that, there is a small button right here next to the channel row. And after hitting that, we are transported back to the channel creation page, which is the same as we have seen with organic earlier. So here, we very simply direct, not sponsored again, and after saving, it is already selected here. And we save again, and watch the traffic being categorized, right? And we see now that there is still 58.7% not categorized. So then the next step can be that we can look at Google CPC, right? And we see that there are different campaigns. Right? We see that there are some search campaigns, and there might be a brand campaign. So let's say that we want to separate out brand campaigns from AdWords, and that is Google CPC, medium, source Google, medium CPC, and here in campaign we will look for word brand. Yes, and there is a brand campaign. As you might have noticed, traffic and later ads classification is very dependent on the way you are mapping your campaigns or tagging your campaigns. So make sure that you are staying consistent with your campaign tagging, and if there is a change in your campaign tagging, make sure that this change is then applied to your channel mapping definition here in revenue, so you won't fall prey to huge changes in your categorization of your traffic between the channels. So again, this is very important and needs to be noted. Okay, here so we have selected Google CPC and brand, which selected the brand campaign, and now we will create a new channel for this, and that will be AdWords brand, AdWords _ brand. Once again, it is good to stick to some naming convention with your channels. It makes your life easier. So if you were to create another channel, let's say AdWords search, then we would name it AdWords _ search. So we stay consistent with the naming. And the channel is sponsored. Although we do not have connected AdWords as a cost platform yet in this business unit, but we can of course connect it later and map it to this channel, right? So we have selected AdWords brand and we save. AdWords brand appears, right? And then we might say, okay, everything else we want to have in AdWords others, let's say. Okay, so we say Google CPC. Will be AdWords will be divided into two parts. One is brand, and the other one is others. And here we have to create a channel again. Sponsored, of course, with AdWords, and save. And after saving, you can see that something new popped up. A warning here, only conflicts, which means that there has been some conflict in our channel mapping. A conflict means that we have mapped a combination of source, medium, and campaign into more than two channels, and these conflicts need to be resolved, because then the system has problems with categorizing the data between these two channels. So the rule is that each combination of source, medium, and campaign has to be mapped at most to one channel. Right. So to see only the rows which are conflicting, we can hit this button to create a filter, and now we see that the problem is with Google CPC brand. We have so then we can look at rules, the rule section, to see where was the problem. We have said that when there is a source Google, medium, CPC, and campaign brand, we want the traffic to be categorized into AdWords brand. If the source is Google and medium CPC, it goes to others, which also includes brand. So we need to make a rule and or edit the existing rule for AdWords others and change it so the campaign does not contain brand. After saving, the rule is resolved. Now we can release the only conflicts filter, and all of the rows of traffic will be visible again. We could of course keep going. There's still a lot of a lot of rows which are not set, but now at the moment we can look at the other part of channel mapping, and that is ads classification. Ads classification, once again, is accessible via the settings menu, and it is underneath traffic classification right here. Right. We can see here that at the moment there's only one cost platform associated with this business unit, and it is Ceneo. And for Ceneo, it's very easy to map this one. We will simply create one channel for the whole Ceneo, for the whole platform. And it is not here yet, so once again, Ceneo is sponsored and save. As you can see, ads classification and traffic classification interfaces are very similar. There's a slight difference in the layout of the filters because we do not know source and medium in the platform. So instead of source and medium, there's a filter for platform, which we know because we know what source the data came in from. And the tagging by platform and campaign should be consistent and with the tag platform, campaign, and even ad group if necessary. This can be added. Should be consistent with the combination of source, medium, campaign, and ad group in traffic classification. It's very important, so we are sure that the relating campaigns are connected into the same channel. Right, and so we have created Ceneo channel. We have a mapped costs into this channel, and now we will want to map also traffic and conversions from analytics. So we go back to traffic classification, and we select out source channel, and we can map it to platform, which is already here. Platform is available because Seno is connected as a data source. So every time you connect a new platform in data sources section, it starts to be available for use in traffic classification. And channel has already been created in ads classification, and that is Seno. We save, the channel is created, and now it takes a moment for the data to be categorized in the system. So after a few minutes, you will already see these new channels applied on your performance monitor and the rest of the application. Before we move on, I would talk a bit more about what we actually, the different tabs we can use in traffic and ads. The default one is most visited, which ranks the combinations of source medium campaign by visits. Next to it, you have by conversions. And the third one we've already seen, this one is rules, which lists all of the rules which have been applied in this business unit in traffic classification. And the last one is import and export, which captures the applied rules in a document, which can be downloaded and applied to different business units. And so we have created a few channels. We have mapped traffic and classification, the traffic and ads, the both sides from web and from the platform. And before we end this video, there's always or before we end this process, there's always a good thing to make sure that the traffic and ads mapping has been done correctly. And this can be verified in the performance monitor. At the moment, we do not see our mapping yet because, as I said, it takes a moment for the changes to take effect. So we can switch account to go to general revenue demo. And in this account, I can show you how you can verify that the channel mapping has been done properly. By this verification, I mean that we need to take a look if both sides, costs from the platform mapped in ads classification, as well as traffic from web analytics mapped in traffic classification, are present for the channel. Here comes in play the definition of the channel, because some channels are not paid, but we'll get to that in a second. So I will select marketing investment, the cost data, which was mapped in ads classification. And here I can select, for example, visits, visit data from web analytics, which was mapped in traffic classification. And now I can go one by one with my channels and see if they have been mapped correctly. So I can see that AdWords channel has both investment and visits mapped correctly. And when I look at direct, it has only visits, but in this case, it is okay, because for direct, we have not been connecting any costs. So direct has association with data from web analytics, but no cost data. So it's okay. So during this verification, it is good to remember which channels are sponsored and which are not paid. Same goes with email, not sponsored. Facebook might be missing costs, as we see here, because there's only visits part. Favi, both costs and visits, and so on. So we go on and check if our channels are set up correctly. Or organic, okay. Visits, no investment related to organic at the moment. And as we keep going, seems all right. And then we just see with the AdWords search that we are pretty sure that there are some costs associated with AdWords search, since there are some campaigns running. But these are not mapped because we do not see any costs associated with AdWords search. So from this check, should result a move to go to ads classification and fix the channel mapping in ads and associate costs from the campaigns which relate to channel AdWords search. Okay, that would describe the whole process of channel mapping. So to sum it up, there are a few steps to take. First is look at the channels which are present in the business unit already in the channel section, and then mainly transferring to traffic and ads classification sections accessible for administrators and operators in the settings menu, and then mapping both sides, traffic classification side of web analytics and ads classification side of marketing platforms. And do not forget to check if you have properly mapped the channels. It sometimes can happen that you forget to map one side for a channel. So it's very good to be sure and try to stick try to be consistent with what campaigns from platforms are mapped to what channels, so that we are sure that the same campaign is mapped same campaign is mapped to the same channel both in traffic and ads classification. Yes, and that will be it. Hopefully, you'll be able to set up your channels based on our short introduction. We are always ready to help, and stay tuned for following videos. Bye bye.